California. How are you guys doing? This is the Phonebooth here on TVOSJ, the voice of San Joaquin, and soon to be KBCC 89.5 FM over in Tracy, California. My name is Edward Heitman. Joining me in the studio, as always, are my good friends and co-hosts, Brian Rodriguez.
Hello.
And Parker Spurlin.
Good evening.
Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, if this is your first time checking out the show, the Phonebooth is completely dedicated to the world of pop culture. Anything from movies to video games to TV shows to comic books, you name it, and we will do our very best to cover.
Also, me and Brian's wedding, which is coming out on June 2069. Is that what you believe? June 9th, 2069, I think is what it's coming down to.
So we do have audio, and it's coming out from both sides
It's
at
coming
equal
out,
volume.
Yes,
it's a
from both
miracle.
sides. So you
Wonderful.
can hear me and Brian's wedding day, which is June 9th, 2069. Isn't that
RSVP
right,
on SoundCloud.
you can RSVP me on AOL. You can find me at the Blockbuster. You can find me at the Blockbuster. Did you know Blockbuster?
The
Hollywood Video. So you can just tell the clerk over there, hey, I want RSVP for Brian Parker's wedding. He'll know exactly what you're talking about, and we're gonna give you a special tape.
How's it going, Terry? Thank you for tuning in, as always.
What do you think? Should we give him a tape of season 1 Gilmore Girls?
I stopped paying attention to what you were saying like 2 seconds in.
See, season 1 Gilmore Girls it is. So
That's arguably the best season.
So, we're going to start our news bit with something we're really confused about, okay? So, we're talking about Bethesda.
We're in the mirror dimension.
hang on.
We're talking about Bethesda. But Bethesda did a good this time.
They did something good without breaking anything.
I'm baffled. I am shocked. Is this possible?
Mm-hmm.
I have
Anyways.
to go. Sorry, I'm a little behind the curve. I forgot we
And
didn't have scripts.
even more confusing, Bethesda did it good with Fallout 76.
So backstory time. So about December of last year, early December of last year, cheaters discovered an exploit where they could steal another player's entire inventory. Like all of it, including the Pip-Boy, which is required for vital functions of the game. And they could do this without even seeing the player. They could do this from hundreds of yards away in-game, through buildings and mountains. It was a nightmare. We know at least hundreds of players were affected this. I wouldn't be surprised if it was thousands. But Bethesda did a good in that they have given each affected player a copy of their character from before it was hacked, along with $75 in the in-game Atom currency. Why it wasn't $76 to go with the theme, I don't know, but
I'm actually shocked that they gave $75 worth of atoms when this makes me think all the way back to Baggate, the nylon bag situation, and how everybody got only like $5 worth of atoms.
And their excuse was that the material was too expensive and they didn't plan on doing anything about it. This is actually a decent step forward. They also, provided essentially Bethesda employees to come in, play as the character that has all the stuff back, so that players could trade the items they'd gained since then to that player, so they didn't lose anything because two different characters now. Bethesda did good.
They did good.
They did a fine.
They did a fine.
They did a fine. I wouldn't classify it as good. I would say you did fine.
I would have said they just did fine if they'd returned just the characters, and that would have been it.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people just expected that all that stuff was gone forever.
Yeah, but then they put a little cherry on the top,
with
too.
$75 in atoms, that is, I mean, even if they'd said they were give atoms, I would have expected $5, maybe $10, not $75.
$75.
Because
$75.
We're all kind of used.
Weird that they didn't do the 6, but okay, I'm not gonna complain.
Yeah. We're all kind of used to Bethesda not really doing good at all with their damage control.
They do a oopsie poopsie.
So many times that ought to be their catchchrize, but
they did a fine.
They did a fine.
They did a fine.
And
not good. You did fine. You done good, Pig.
Mm-hmm.
You done good.
And we've been impressed.
Now let's wait for them to screw it all up with the Wastelanders up there.
All it's got to do, they're on the tightrope.
I'm knocking on wood here.
Don't.
They're walking on sunshine. And the thing about sunshine is it can go away very quickly.
Go.
Sunshine is not that thick.
Well, yeah, I mean, because the thing is that it's a bunch of it's photons being ejected at about the speed of light.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to stay on top of it unless you have a massive amount. But to qualify, I'm getting way too much into science about this. And
this bit has gone too far.
Yeah. But if you put your face to it, if you put your face to the sun, if you really want to feel it, you'll die from radiation. So
yes. Don't rub on the sun.
Don't rub it. You can like it. You can watch it from a distance, but just don't get too close.
Now on to the next news piece that's just an excuse for us to be random in 5 minutes. Universal and Blumhouse have announced plans to remake The Thing, or John Carpenter's The Thing, or whatever you want to call it.
Well, because there was The Thing from Outer Space that came out in the 50s,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's John Carpenter's The Thing, very different, but the same.
Okay, so actually...
And then there was another The Thing, actually.
Yes, this requires some backstory. So The Thing was originally adapted from a
book.
Book, short story, whatever you want to call it, called Who Goes There by John Campbell, famous science fiction writer. It was then adapted into The Thing from Another World.
I thought it was A Thing from Outer Space.
It may have been. It may have been a different adaptation of it that was The Thing from Another World. Then it was adapted into John Carpenter's The Thing. Then it got a prequel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now...
And it's most famous for the John Carpenter.
Yes. However, back in 2018, it was discovered that among John Campbell's unpublished manuscripts was a longer version of the Who Goes There, by about 45 pages, called Frozen Hell. And that is actually going to be the basis for this remake. It will include the 45 pages of cut content. Now, I don't actually know what's in those pages. I know that it got published, I think, last year, because there was a Kickstarter thing to get it done. I don't know what's in it, so how it would be different. But it does appear that this isn't so much a remake of John Carpenter's movie, but a readaptation of the book, Who Goes There, Frozen Hell.
I find it interesting. So there's two movies that I think are kind of interesting to think about. So there's The Fly, which came out in the 50s. Mm-hmm. And then there's The Thing from Outer Space. They both got adaptation in the 80s around the same time. One by Steven Cronenberg, which is The Fly, and then John Carpenter's The Thing. Mm-hmm. But what's funny about both of them is that they're a reflection of the times for each one. So I think The Fly and The Thing from Outer Space have to deal with communism in America and subverting the communism. Well, I and how I interpreted The Thing and The Fly as kind of, they are representations of the AIDS pandemic in America, like the AIDS epidemic that happened, and that it can be anywhere. The fear of the unknown. It could be anywhere, and it could take over you in a second.
Could even be in the same room. I get it. Yeah.
I've heard arguments that the John Carpenter's thing is also based off sort of communist fears, like who we don't know who could be the traitor who's trying to kill us, so we should fear everyone. It was sort of the McCarthyism. So. Yeah,
the McCarthyism of the time.
But I see your point too. I think it has many layers to it.
I think The Fly has to do more with the AIDS epidemic, just because it's like, oh, he went through this, but he looks fine. He's fine. Mm-hmm. And then over time he degenerates and deteriorates into like this unspeakable.
Now we should point out that is not actually what AIDS does.
That's not what it does. That's not what it does. It's just
having
the fear
AIDS
of the time.
Does not make a human being a monster.
No. It's the disease itself that's the monster.
But it's important to point
distinction.
out when we're making these comparisons. That,
it's not the people. It's the disease itself. That's the horrible part, because it disfigures you. At the time it did, because they didn't really have a cure. It was basically a death sentence at the time. You had 6 months to live once you were diagnosed with it, and that was it. And so it was a real big scare in the fact that we didn't know anything about it. So. I think that with The Fly kind of shows that, which is like, and it used to be that, when you got it, you used to get really bad, it was the lesions on you, and so it would disfigure you. And so it was kind of interesting to see, it was looking at it through that aspect, you can really see the fear that the AIDS epidemic put onto the American population, and you can see it reflected in movies a lot from that time period. I always think that's interesting, that scary movies reflect the fears of the time.
I joked earlier about us using news pieces as it chooses to be random, but we did start about talking about a reboot of The Thing, and then somehow moved on to AIDS. And the connection is there, but you gotta admit. Anyway, Ed, would you like to handle this next piece?
Yes, I would. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you might be familiar with a little streaming service called Disney Plus.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
And you might know that there are a series of Marvel shows coming into Disney Plus which has ties to the MCU. One of those being Loki, with the original character coming back to reprise the role and everything.
Tom Hiddleston.
Yep, but now there is another addition. Variety has reported that Owen Wilson has been cast in Loki, in the Disney Plus series. It's unclear what role he has been cast in, but Brian, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, my first thought is, wow.
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 Or should I say, ka-chow?
No,
Yeah, wow.
we don't know who he's playing, but given his just vague appearance, I'm going to guess he's playing a Thor impersonator. You know, someone you hire for a kid's birthday party that Loki has to team up with for some reason. That's what I want.
Yeah, I mean, wow. Well, kids, I think we're about to get murdered. They sent us a communique. Wow. Oh, what's that over there?
Love that wasn't actually Owen Wilson.
Huh?
That wasn't Owen Wilson. That's what SNL said.
Yeah, Edward Norton. Yeah. I watched that, actually. Funny enough, I watched that last night.
What?
I was like, oh, yeah.
I actually watched it a few days ago.
Yeah. Oh, hey, that's the communique. Wow.
Yeah, though, I mean, I'm actually kind of glad that Owen Wilson is in this. I believe he's only in, like, one other Disney series, and that was Cars. And that was technically Disney Pixar and whatnot.
That's
So this would be like his first live-action role and whatnot, isn't it?
He used to say Kachiga.
Kachiga? No, that was the
that
quote was used in Cars.
I think he may technically have more Disney stuff because there's things like he was in Marley and Me, and that may be a Disney movie.
No, it's not.
Is it not?
No, I think it's DreamWorks.
It really
okay.
looked like it was a Disney movie. Though,
Yeah, because Disney movie has all these different live action studios that don't build themselves as Disney, so it's hard to tell sometimes when they're all in that blob that absorbs all.
Anyways, let's talk about Netflix.
Yes, specifically The Witcher.
Mm.
So last week, Netflix announced that there would be an anime spin-off film for their Witcher series featuring an original story not written by Andrzej Sapkowski, the writer of the Witcher books. We have actually gotten more details on that. This week, they revealed that the film will be centered around the origin of Vesemir, the Witcher who taught Geralt, the main character of The Witcher proper, and it will cover his early time as a Witcher, from being claimed through the Law of Surprise to going through the Trial of Grasses to presumably his first few years as a Witcher. So I think we can firmly say they do not have to get Henry Cavill now, which is probably a huge boon for the budget of this.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, oh, sweet, we actually have some room to do something with the budget.
So yeah, this is, I believe, Vesemir by the time of the Witcher series is about, I think, 300 years old.
Yeah.
So this is a few centuries before, Yennefer was even born, before Geralt was born, way before Ciri was born. So this is, way back in time, proper prequel.
Yeah, and we might actually get to see the actual Witcher. We might actually get to see Kaer Morhen.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
In his prime, It's like the Jedi Temple.
Yeah.
We actually get to see actual Jedi. Hopefully they don't pull a prequel on me. So.
Yeah, that really happened more gradually. There was no Order 66 for Witchers. They just stopped being implemented. Yeah.
All right, well, we just can't make them anymore.
Yeah, it's,
Well, I think there was a reign. I have to remember. I can't remember. I think there was. Yes, there was. There was a storming of Kaer Morhen.
Right, okay.
Yeah, there was a storming of Kaer Morhen. And I don't remember. I think it was just like people came in, or I forget who came in. Was it the elves? I can't remember.
Everyone hates Witchers.
Yeah, like no one likes them. But everybody. It's funny how no one likes them until they need them.
Yeah.
Right.
All of a sudden they're godsend.
No one wants to hunt a Striga, but no one wants to pay the person that hunts the Striga.
Yeah.
Striga. That was a good depiction of the Striga in the series.
Yeah.
I love that. That was great. Someone who really loved the books. That was great to see. I was like, oh, that's cool. Because there's only so much, like, to see you get to imagine it, but, like, to see it actually on screen was really cool. It was, like, the one few times as reading a book and then watching the movie, I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I'm actually really looking forward to this. I mean, I know I'm still kind of new to the whole Witcher series and whatnot, but I do have to admit, Netflix does pretty good with their anime so far. I heard the Castlevania series was pretty good.
Yeah, and I don't think that the same studio is behind this, or
Okay.
at least I don't. Actually, I don't think they've announced what studio's behind it, so they may use Powerhouse Animation. I'd actually like that.
But yeah, if it is, that'd be really
Funimation.
good.
That's different. That's a different thing. However, that is not the only Netflix news we have this week, and this next one is
No.
okay. Let's breathe. Breathe.
I'll do this. I got this.
Okay.
I got
Are you
this.
sure?
I got it. I can do it.
I have to point the
This
mic.
week.
I have to turn around here.
This week, not the week before, not the week after, though it hasn't happened. This week, Netflix also announced a live-action One Piece series. The adaptation of the best-selling manga will last 10 episodes and will be handled by ITV Studios, the same studio behind Netflix live-action Cowboy Bebop.
So
This frustrates me. It frustrates me so.
yes.
I mean, to be honest, I tried to get in. Well, I remember when One Piece was running when I was a kid,
Oh yeah, it's
and it's still going, isn't
still
it?
going.
It's still going. The
They're getting-
manga's still going.
they're
The
still-
show's still going.
They're still getting really. They're actually like really close to actually getting the One Piece. So they say that every single arc that they're so close to getting the One Piece.
The creator has said that he plans to end this series within the next 5 years, which I think will put it past its 25th anniversary.
And
Jeez.
I find it odd that like there's this show that spans through so many episodes past the hundreds, and they want to wrap this up in like 10 episodes.
Well, this is a live-action adaptation. This isn't as far as we know, this isn't a continuation of the show. This may just be like covering one story arc.
But like, you mean like how they did Death Note or what?
It could be like Death Note. It could be just they like. Well, it's 10 episodes to start that we know, so it's possible they only, did 10 episodes, and if it does well, they, greenlight another 10 or 20 or.
I mean, I have some hope because it is the studio behind the Cowboy Bebop series, and we haven't gotten to actually see the Cowboy Bebop series, so I can't really
Great
give too much.
casting so far.
Yeah, I can't give any judgment their way or anything.
Killed
But
it.
the last anime adaptation that I saw on Netflix was the Mob Psycho anime adaptation.
Okay, so it's important to bring this up. Netflix does have live-action anime adaptations in Mob Psycho and Fullmetal Alchemist. Those were not made by Netflix. Those were licensed by Netflix.
Oh,
Those
okay.
were made in Japan for Japan, and then Netflix licensed them in America.
Oh.
Bo. Bo, 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 bo.
Bo 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 bo.
Bo, 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 bo.
Fist of the nose hair.
Bo, 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 bo.
I'd actually like to see an adaptation of Fist of the North Star.
That actually would.
wanna
Have
see
they
a
already
live
done
action.
that?
Have they done a live-action Fist
They,
of the North Star?
they have, but it's not on Netflix.
Stardust.
I'm gonna have to do my research here.
Stardust.
Was that a... I'm pretty sure that was a JoJo season, wasn't it? Stardust Crusaders?
Stardust Crusaders. Yeah, there's a live action Fist of the
Bizarre Adventures
North
of
Star.
JoJo.
It was made in 1995.
Well, I'll rephrase that as maybe a... I mean, I haven't seen it, but I'm just going to assume here. Let's say we get a good version.
Well, we have Cowboy Bebop, but we don't have Captain Rocksteady.
Oink.
You go over there.
You really cracked a Bebop and Rocksteady joke.
Bebop and Rocksteady.
You're so
I gotta give you a high
original.
five on that one.
You're so original. You're the first person to ever make that connection.
I'm sorry. It's just every time I grew up on TMNT, so when I hear Bebop, I immediately think Rocksteady. Like, it doesn't sound right to have Bebop alone. You gotta have Bebop and Rocksteady.
Mm-hmm.
Bebop and Rocksteady. You gotta have them. Rhino and yeah.
So that's really it for news pieces. We don't have a lot of stuff this week. Trailers or
we
news.
have a doozy of a trailer.
Yeah.
Bro,
so
Fast 9?
we're at the end of the episode, we know
F9.
yeah, we've missed.
F9, Control Alt Delete. What?
I was just saying, we know we missed a few of the no comment episodes where we have more of our
We missed
discussion
a few.
pieces. So
Yeah.
we're gonna have some of those at the end to make up for really not a lot happening this week.
Yeah, we apologize.
We can have a woozy doozy of a time
Yes.
where we talk about our feelings.
Yeah, and we're not going to be doing no comment tomorrow because as much as we'd like to get back to it, we
Super
would
Bowl.
be we'd
Super
be going
Bowl.
up against the Super Bowl, and we don't expect any of you to make a choice like that in our favor.
Not that a lot of people are out there watching our show, but hey,
Yeah.
Well, we've been getting over 100.
that's
Yeah,
true.
we've been getting pretty good view counts and whatnot. Thank
What
you all
do
for tuning
need?
in.
What do I need?
You touched my head.
I need Tyler the Creator is what I need.
Tyler, the creator.
Yeah.
Didn't he do a couple of? I could have sworn he did a couple of Doritos commercials.
I don't. Is that a thing?
I think it was him. I don't know why. I seriously thought about.
I need Tyler the Creator. Well, like, why not?
Anyway, the
Oink.
only trailer we have this week is for Fast and Furious 9. 9.
F9.
There have actually been 10 of these movies, including the spin-off Hobbs and Shaw.
I needed some disinfectant wipes after hearing what you just said for my ears. So
the next installment of the saga,
the Fast Saga, which is what they're calling the first 10 movies in the spin-off, and after that it may be a different saga.
Smell that.
Yeah, I can smell it from over here, thank you.
Jocelyn Condi tuned in and said, "How's it going, ladies? How's it going, guys? Thank you for tuning in."
Going
as always.
good.
Pretty good.
I have disinfectant wipes to clear my ears from hearing such things as Fast and Furious 9.
Yes, so the release date is May 22nd of this year, starring Vin Diesel, John Cena, Michelle Rodriguez, and so many others.
Superman 5.
Tyrese is in there.
Justice.
Dwayne Johnson, Dwayne Johnson is not in this one, neither is Jason Statham.
Justice is coming.
Yes.
Justice for Han.
So it's directed by Justin Lin, like the last few have been. And the synopsis for this is: after the events of the Fate of the Furious, Dominic Toretto and his family must face Dominic's younger brother Jacob, a deadly assassin who is working with their old enemy Cypher. No, none of that makes sense to you. I don't blame you.
Funny enough, okay, I'm not going to pretend like I've watched all of the Fast and Furious movies. I haven't, okay? But my guess is,
I've seen 2 of them.
But my guess is that they probably never mentioned his brother in the whole series.
Probably not.
No, they never did. I actually watched almost all of the Fast movies because they always seem to pop up on FX whenever I'm watching TV. So I watched these, and yeah, they never mention it.
Ludicrous.
Yes, Ludacris is in this too. So we're not really going to go over the plot because let's face it, there's barely one there.
There is a car with a rocket on it.
Yeah, so John Cena plays Vin Diesel's brother, and yes, I'm referring to them by their actor names because you will too. So they get in a bunch of fist fights. That happens.
Fist fights. The shirts off.
Because people really enjoyed that fight between Vin Diesel and The Rock. When they first met.
Yes, they're walls of meat smashing into each other. It's like when you, as a kid, when you take your action figures and just bang them together.
It's like Godzilla versus King Kong.
Hey.
So the big things are we get a Pontiac Fiero with a rocket booster tied to the top of it. Because sure.
I thought it was jumping the shark when Call of Duty went to space.
Oh, he does worse than jump the shark. Vin Diesel goes full on Spider-Man at the end.
So there are 2 other car things we should talk about. One is driving a Jeep across a collapsing rope bridge as they are just outrunning, I guess, the falling part of the bridge, which I'm pretty sure that's not how physics works.
That's not how that works.
Yeah.
If you're
wondering,
spoiler alert, someone who's kind of who's kind of fluent in math and science, that's not how that works. So as soon as the bridge collapses, there's nothing to hold you. Guess what? You're going down.
Who needs science when you got family?
So after that, once they're on the other side of the collapsed bridge, they have to turn around and get over the gap, but there's no bridge. So what do? Vin Diesel rams his car into the one remaining...
Funny enough, sorry, just to bring up the science point of that. If that was to happen, the bridge would actually collapse faster. So this would literally, it's like a Roadrunner, Coyote and Roadrunner thing. This does actually happen. Where the bridge would collapse first, and then the car would come down.
Oh.
There's just nothing to support it. So yeah, the bridge would collapse first. You could see it in slow-mo actually, because we did that in our science in my physics class where we had a ruler suspended by 2 points, and we put a bunch of weights on it, and we let it. Well, I hold on to one part while the other part was stable, and I dropped it, and you could see it, and we recorded it, and you could see the ruler drop faster than the weights.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
So, getting back to the second thing they do with the bridge, in order to get across the gap, they slam into the structure holding up the one remaining rope. They manage to somehow perfectly hook it into the car's wheel without, actually getting out and doing that, because that's just how things work. They then drive off the cliff and use the rope to swing across the gap in an arc. So, this ancient wooden bridge with, a stone holding it up on the other side, and this, probably not that great maintained rope is holding up a car as it swings through the air. And I'm sure every physicist that watched that scene just died instantly.
Yes.
Space isn't out of the question, guys.
Yeah, they have said that they can envision going to space in Fast 10. So, they're now tying rocket boosters to cars. They're setting up for it. We see what you're doing. Also, Han from Fast and Furious 3 and I think 5 is alive again because he was...
Why not?
Because Justice for Han was such a big thing.
Yeah, because he died in 3, then it turns out 5 was a prequel, and then he was killed in 6 by Deckard Shaw, or Jason Statham's character, but now it turns out he's alive again somehow, so that should placate the Justice for Han people, because a lot of people wanted Deckard Shaw to die, but then he became part of the family.
Right.
Despite, his only real interactions being murdering one of their friends and not letting Dom's baby die.
I mean, I'm honestly not surprised that Han showed up. I could have sworn at one point in time it was rumored that Michelle Rodriguez's character was dead, and then she suddenly
faked her death.
Yeah, and then she faked her death. So the fact that Han showed up out of nowhere, I should have been like, oh snap, and I kind of was like, oh, Justice for Han. But at the same time, I was like, yeah.
Also,
Why
I'd
not?
like to point out that I'm pretty sure in one scene, John Cena shoots a grappling hook, then starts grappling down it before it's actually anchored to another point.
Love it.
Yeah. 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10.
I'm giving it a 10 out of 10.
Oh, sorry. I'm about to have an autistic breakdown because this is just... What?
Right? Remember when they were just doing street races and stealing parts from
It
big
literally
old
was
trucks?
just, hey, let's race.
Yeah, it was an underground.
LA.
It was an underground street racing group, and Paul Walker was an undercover cop who was trying to bust them, and that was that.
Yeah, but now in the spinoff, Idris Elba gets superpowers, and they're tying rockets to cars.
And he says, quote, he says, quote, I'm Black Superman. You know? Like,
because he's got super strong skin and super speed, and
but he says that. Like, he's like, I'm Superman. You know, it's just like...
because that's just
like,
what these movies are now. Embrace it. These aren't racing movies. These are superhero movies.
I can't. I'm sorry. I've seen James Bond chases that made more sense than these.
Yeah. Like
the one in the new James Bond, like the whole thing with the Aston Martin and that has the machine guns in the headlights. That seems more probable than this.
Well, that's been in the series for a while now. That's
that was just one of the classic gadgets.
Yeah, I know. But that I'm saying that trope is more believable. I believe that
when
more.
James Bond's gadgets make more sense.
It's like, yeah, I love that.
Anyways, that was it for trailer talk. But we have a few things to talk about that came out this week.
Yes.
Sorry,
we're trained professionals, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, we're not professional, and I haven't actually been trained. Well, Ed trained me, but I don't remember a lot of it.
I've been trained, but not in this.
So the first thing we're missing this week is Gretel and Hansel, a dark retelling of Hansel and Gretel, which I suppose it's not really that dark of a retelling. It's just
the telling of the actual story.
Yeah, it's literally Hansel and Gretel, except Gretel is the main point of view character for this one. She leads Hansel into the woods to find food instead of just them both doing it, which... Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of figured it'd be closer to the source material because it says Gretel and Hansel, and underneath it says a grim fairy tale. So it seemed like they were going to stick to the Brothers
Grimm.
Grimm.
With 2 M's or 1 M?
2.
Okay.
I think it was 2.
It's I mean, I guess all for reboots with female leads, but this one just feels odd.
This is very late to the party.
It's
very late to the party because there was a point in time after like Red Riding Hood or Snow White and the Huntsman, whichever one came first. But after one of those two came out, there was like this trend of like, let's take a fairy tale that everybody knows and make it like the darkest, edgiest movie we could possibly think of, and people are going to tune in. That's how we ended up getting Hansel and Gretel Monster Hunters.
Yeah, why not make a sequel to that?
Jack the Giant Slayer. We had gotten that. You know.
Gods of Egypt.
They even did a spin.
No.
They even did a spin-off of Snow White and the Huntsman just for the Huntsman.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it's because they couldn't use Christmas tree. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
But
Gods of Egypt.
But like this whole trend came and passed. You know, so I'm kind of surprised that now
Gerard
there's another
Butler.
dark, edgy fairy tale retelling.
Stop whitewashing. Anyway,
Gerard Butler.
The Rotten Tomato score from critics is 56%, and the audiences are giving it a 15%.
Yeah.
Where's Gerard Butler from?
Gerard Butler.
I think he's just British.
Is he British?
Maybe Scottish?
I'll have to Google that.
Is he Australian? He's one of those. He's
one
of
of the
those.
UKs.
Yeah, or, used to be, but then escaped.
Maybe he's a Kiwi?
He was born in Paisley, United Kingdom.
Okay.
He's from Paisley.
Paisley.
So the consensus for Gretel and Hansel is that the set design and cinematography creates a dark and moody world that is in no way
It
supported
looked
by
like
a bad
like they
script.
were really trying to they're trying to get like the same vibe of Hereditary.
Yeah.
Like it's that dark, like just the cinematography is like this, like the shadows are always in frame, and so like you always have like just the outline of their face, which is very Hereditary. Like the Hereditary did that a lot.
I still
Yeah.
want to watch Hereditary. It's so good.
You have to really be in the you have to be in the mood to be like, yeah, I don't want to like myself for the rest of the day or 2 weeks from now, so I'll watch this movie.
So, like, as a horror movie, it does a good job, or what?
It's a horror movie that, how to put it, it's not, yeah, it doesn't go, it doesn't frighten you. It doesn't frighten you. It scars you.
Oh, I
So
like that.
I think that's the best takeaway from this. Is in this, we're in this talk about Gretel Hansel. The consensus is go see Hereditary.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about
That
right.
seems to be what.
Or
we're-
Midsummer. You might like Midsummer a little bit better.
Watch anything that's not an adaptation of a fairy tale in Hollywood, because 9 out of 10 times it's really not worth it.
Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
That's
Abraham Lincoln,
not a
Vampire
fairy tale.
Hunter.
I know. And just...
Abraham
it's just-
Lincoln is definitely not a fairy tale.
I know, but you mentioned Pride and Prejudice, and
And
that,
Zombies.
yeah. And that book, I could have sworn, came from the same author as Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter.
I think they actually come from different authors. They were just part of that wave of classic literature with monsters.
Yeah.
It's weird that was a trend, too.
It lasted like a year, but yeah, it was big. So anyway, our last thing for releasing this week is BoJack Horseman Season 6 Part 2.
Now, you watched that.
Yes.
You binged it last night.
Yes, I
Finally
did.
over.
So
Man.
this one's going to take a bit of a different format, but the synopsis is BoJack inches his way towards redemption as a stint in rehab forces him to confront his mistakes and start making amends. Now, the synopsis and the Rotten Tomatoes score, on Rotten Tomatoes they have both Season 6 Part 1 and Part 2 together as just Season 6, so it's harder to get score for Season 6 Part 2. But the Rotten Tomatoes score from critics is 98, audience is 92%. And I'm not going to do a consensus here because A, I've seen it, and B, I want to talk about BoJack Horseman more as a whole, as the entire show and the messages, and that it's really hard to be a good person,
It really is.
especially when you've been a bad person most of your life. And that's what BoJack Horseman explores. It explores, is it possible to become a good person after all the horrible things you've done? And is it possible to stay a good person, or are you just born broken? Is there a part of you that's broken? Can that be changed? Or do you just need to pretend?
Brings up heavy questions.
Makes me-
Yeah, it explored depression. It explored the abortion issue. It explored gun violence. It explored everything we don't like to talk about.
It even explored how people view their idols and everything in Hollywood when they're terrible people.
And it explored it tried to explore humanity as a whole, all the things we don't like to talk about, all the things we hate about ourselves, all the things that just make us
The vain,
broken.
the vapidness, the...
Yeah, the idea of good and bad trauma, the trauma that forges you into something better or something worse, or is there such a thing as good trauma, or is it all just trauma? Are we owed something? Do we have to do something with this trauma to make it worth it?
The thing I always picked up from the show is it worth helping someone? Because in the end, are you just going to hurt them?
Yeah, are you going to get hurt? And there are no easy answers to this, and I applaud the show for not trying to give an easy answer. It doesn't say if BoJack is worthy of redemption after everything he's done.
And he's done so much.
It doesn't say he's worthy of happiness, because in the end, no one's really worthy or unworthy of happiness. Happiness is something that you have to try for every day. Goodness is something you have to try for every day, and it will always be hard.
It gets easier.
There is this quote I heard from one of the bands I really liked, Alice in Chains, by the guitar player Jerry Cantrell, when he was talking about the death of Lane Staley, the singer who had died of a heroin overdose. And he said, the thing is that it's easy to die. It's really hard to live.
Yeah. And that's actually something BoJack Horseman explores a lot, and it explores it one more time in these final few episodes, is the concept of a legacy, and is it, I don't know, worth it for your name to live on because you died, or is it worth it to keep living on so your name will actually mean something better?
Yeah.
And do you owe anyone that? Do you owe yourself that? BoJack Horseman doesn't provide easy answers, even at the very end.
Because life doesn't have easy answers.
Yeah, there are no easy answers. And it brings up the idea that even if there are people that come into your life that help you be better or even make you worse, maybe in the end you were never supposed to meet them anyway. Maybe you weren't supposed to change this way, but you have, and you kind of have to accept that and just keep moving on.
Yeah, and the fact is sometimes what I took from it as well is that, you can lead it's kind of funny now, is that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that you can try and lead someone down the path of helping. You can try and help them. You can try and help them recover from past mistakes or try and get there. But at the end of the day, they're the ones who have to want the help. They have to make the decisions for themselves and be able to want help.
BoJack Horseman changed me profoundly over these last 6 or 7 years. And I don't know if it's changed me for the better. I don't know if it's for the worse. But I do know that it's changed me.
Yeah.
And I think I hope it's made me better.
I've come after watching it, I felt like I've become funny enough, like I remember when I was 16 and the first season came out. I remember it's funny how I view the episodes very differently now. When I first started, and maybe it's because of how they marketed it, but it was like, oh, this is going to be a fun, lighthearted comedy about this guy who's kind of miserable. I'm like, oh, this could be pretty funny. And it turns out, the first couple episodes were like that, but it got further and further. As it got further and further down the line, it got further and further into deeper subjects.
It took them like half a season to really find its feet.
Yeah, and when you feel that, I remember I stopped watching halfway through the first time I watched it because I just wasn't ready for it. I was just too young to understand it. So, not that you can't watch it younger, but it's hard to get I haven't been through that. I haven't been through life life hadn't hit me hard enough yet, and so I was just kind of like, it's not that good. And then when I was 18, I got reality hit a lot harder, and after graduating high school, a lot of reality kind of sets in. Which is like, what am I going to do with my life? Who am I? What am I doing? And BoJack kind of came along. I watched BoJack my freshman year of college, and it kind of helped me understand what it means to be an adult, like what it means to be not just an adult, but to make mistakes, because you're going to make a lot of them in your adult life, and how to get over those feelings, because it's really easy to beat yourself down and tell yourself you're a bad person, which BoJack does throughout the whole season. But in the end, he's just human. Those mistakes are made by a lot of people. It's a human mistake.
Yeah. And I think a good thing that this does is the first 5 seasons really explore, BoJack, he's trying to be better, and then he does something bad, and he tries to be better, and he keeps trying to be better. But the final season explores sort of the outside view is, do people give him a pass just because he's trying to be better? Do we excuse all the unforgivable things he's done because he's trying to be better?
Yeah.
Because he has done some truly awful things.
Yeah, growing up with kind of a interesting family, I would say, in dealing with a lot of personalities very similar to BoJack, dealing with the same kind of mistakes BoJack made, dealing with the same kind of stuff, feeling the ripple effect of those kinds of choices in life by other people puts a different aspect of should you forgive them, because you can try, but they'll just keep making the same mistakes. If they're trying, but they still end up making the same mistakes, the outcome's the same, so are they really trying? It's a very hard question to make.
I remember when I first started watching BoJack Horseman was in 2018. I was hanging out with my cast for my old show, Miserable Media, over at Delta, and they asked if I wanted to watch the show, and I had never heard of it before, so I binge-watched the first 3 seasons all in one night and everything. And before then, I have to admit, I had this illusion about Hollywood and everything, like most people do before watching a show like BoJack Horseman, where you think that if you can make it into Hollywood, there's a happy ending at the end of the tunnel. You can become this big shot, and then nothing could possibly go wrong because it's Hollywood, you know. But then you watch the show, and it really shows you that it's a false illusion and everything. There's regular people there in Hollywood, and there are terrible things that'll happen. And BoJack himself, it's difficult because I really felt bad for BoJack just from the fact that he was a relic of his past in a way. He clung so much to his stardom that he had back in the day, and here he is in modern time as a guy who's basically being forgotten, and he's trying really hard to be remembered forever, you know. And that's something that I connect to a lot because I tend to think about stuff like that, you know, like if I were to pass away right now, you know, what would I have behind me for people to look back at and actually memorize and everything, you know? So I think it's interesting that you bring up that the last half is talking about like legacies and what it means to have your name be remembered in Hollywood, because I do admit things like that are the kind of things that I think about all the time.
Mm-hmm. And the early seasons do a good job of, they use Hollywood, but as the show goes on, it expands and you realize that they're just using Hollywood as sort of a microcosm for life in general, for humanity as a whole.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because Hollywood's like anywhere else.
It's just condensed.
Yeah. I think that the show does a really good job of opening people's eyes, because there might be some people who are still disillusioned by the Hollywood dream and everything. You know, going to Hollywood shouldn't be your big goal, I guess, in a way. You know, because it's not just your fame or whatever that people are going to recognize you by. It's your character and the actions you make and everything.
It's going to be weird living in a world without BoJack Horseman, because for as long as it's been on, I've been watching it, and I've been both looking forward to and dreading watching new seasons, because I would watch them and love them and be heartbroken and sob and be forced to confront my own
it really makes
flaws
you
and demons.
It makes you really confront, you know, the demons in the closet. You know,
it's the first show that really was able to describe depression accurate to the way I was feeling it.
Yeah,
and it's
and you know, you're right. And it hits accurately and it hits hard. You know, for a show about a cartoon horse, it pulls a lot of strings and not emotional. I mean, they're emotional strings, but they're not. It's not to make you cry. It's to make you contemplate and have introspection and have metacognition about who you are.
Yeah.
BoJack Horseman doesn't want to make you sad. It wants to show you a mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the mirror can be ugly sometimes.
Yeah. But there's still characters that you can connect to. I remember one episode, I forget which season it was, but it was like the whole episode's like BoJack narrating in his head just how terrible of a person he is, and it starts to escalate more and more and more as the day progresses. And I think a lot of people can relate to things like that.
You know, I remember, funny enough, like there's the episode where BoJack's at his mom's funeral.
Yeah,
for churro.
Yeah, and it's just the whole monologue of BoJack showing how he felt about his mom, how the feelings of the bitter feelings and kind of and resentment he has towards his mom about how he was raised by her and how she was really bad to him, you know, as far as a parent, and how neglectful and what it's done to him as a person, and how he's grown up because of that, you know, and it reminded me so much of when I was a kid. When I was 16, my grandfather died, and I remember feeling all those emotions that he felt: resentment, bitterness, anger. Not a lot of sadness, just those three emotions: resentment, bitterness, and anger, and and also an apathy. I felt all of that, how he described it, you know. I was like, yeah, I've been there before. I've done that. I've seen what you mean, you know. I've been there at the funeral and not really cared, you know. I've told how I felt and cracked jokes even though it was a sad time, you know. And it's just like that. I know what he's talking about. You know, it's very relatable. But yeah, I mean, it's a show about a cartoon horse.
Yeah.
That can hit all these things, and it shows the power that good storytelling, good characters, in-depth characters can have for a story. I mean, the jokes never really. I was never there for the comedy. There was comedy there, but I was never there for the jokes.
I will say it had some of the best visual comedy I've ever seen.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. But like the comedy was always like a side.
It's an afterthought.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
it's
know. Oh, let's put this in. That'd be funny.
So that way you're not too depressed. Let's do a quick little gag to make you at least chuckle a little bit before we
Yeah.
tackle the next subject.
because again, it doesn't want to make you sad. So
No.
there are things to lighten the mood, like pretty much anything involving Todd,
Right.
until later seasons when Todd starts getting heavy too.
Yeah, he gets heavy. You know,
Yeah.
he's a good foil to BoJack. You know, BoJack's cynical, depressed, and down. And here we have Todd, who's optimistic, kind of laissez-faire, happy-go-lucky.
Yeah.
Doesn't really have too much thought about the future. Just goes on and he's successful.
Yeah,
And
and
sort
then
of the implication that he has this attitude just sort of as a counter to the bleakness in the world, and that it's sort of an act at a point.
and
Yeah.
then there was the whole thing with Mr. Peanut Butter, how he's always optimistic and everything. And at one point in time, he literally tells BoJack that nothing matters.
Yeah.
You know, everything is pointless, and it's not something to be upset about. You know.
Yeah, we're all just. I could see that too. I mean, we're all just a speck of, in the cosmic scale of the universe, we're not even the size of an atom.
It handles nihilism, but not necessarily in a severely depressing manner. It's
Yeah.
just something to reflect
this is
on.
This is very reminiscent of Albert Camus, which in his philosophy, which was that it was called. I want to say universal existentialism.
I think so.
I think that's
Universal
what
existentialism.
yeah. And basically what it was is his idea was that he basically said one time that there's 3 things you could do when you find out. So he said that trying to find meaning in life is meaningless. And the people that do are trying to fill that void. But there's a good reason to have the void. It's good. You should have that. He said that. And then once you find that out, that there's a meaningless life, existence, not life, but existence is meaningless. We're just kind of a random probability that we happened, very unlikely, but it's good. The fact that it happened, there's 3 things you could do when you find that out. 1, you can kill yourself. 2, you can ignore it and try and go back to the way it was. Or 3, embrace it. Say, hey, this is good. I'm alive. It's great. That we're a random probability. Here we are. Let's go.
And at certain points, the show explores all 3 of those different paths.
Yeah, and it shows all it's very when you think about the philosophy of it, there's really it shows all 3 of these paths. And Albert Camus actually, he's like, he said he found that you kind of distracted when you have these things in groups. Like he said that one of the things that he loved to do was play sports. He loved playing soccer. It gave him the purpose, a way to move forward,
Because existence is meaningless, so you have to take the initiative and give it meaning.
Right.
And that's through the things you do, the people you meet.
Right. It's very easy to say, that Albert Camus was very nihilist. He's like, no, he wasn't. He was just objectively looking at the world and saying, well, this is kind of what it is,
Yeah.
And that you can do whatever you want, but in the end, you have to give it the meaning you want it to give.
Yeah, there's the idea that nihilists are, the emo goss. I mean, I'm pretty much a nihilist myself, but I still, I get out of the bed, I do everything, because I know that in the end, the sun will explode, our planet will be turned to ash, all that stuff. But, that's only if you look at the big picture, and sometimes you really just need to focus on the small one.
On the nitty-gritty,
Right
here in front of us, And that's and I love that, and BoJack Horseman looks at all these different aspects, like you said, and it doesn't say one's better than the other.
Yeah,
it just says here they are, And I love that they do that. They just kind of explore these things.
they never try to give an answer. They just give you the tools to try to find your own.
Yeah. But BoJack Horseman, 10 out of 10. Go watch it.
I
If
give
you
that
haven't
an
seen
11 out of 10.
Go watch it.
I think it is probably one of the best TV shows that has ever been made.
Yeah.
Definitely, without a doubt. If not the best animated show.
It's definitely the best animated show.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
definitely the best animated show.
Anyways, that was the releasing this week, and like we said, we're not going to be able to do any no comments for tomorrow, but we did have a few topics set aside, and since we have a good handful of minutes to spare, let's go into those topics. Now, Brian, for a while we've been covering Crisis on Infinite Earths leading up to the build-up, and from what I heard, Crisis has finally reached its end.
Yeah, Crisis reached its end actually a few weeks ago, but again, we didn't do no comments, so we weren't able to talk on it. But what also reached its end this week was Arrow. It finally closed out its 8-season run, which The finale, much like the final season, much like the show as a whole, had me going, that was a hot mess.
Ooh.
And I still don't know if I loved it or hated it.
Rosebud.
Yeah, see, Arrow has always been a complicated show. The first 2 seasons were great. And the 5th season was great. Pretty much everything else was pretty terrible. And I loved every second of it. I loved it even when I hated it. And I think Arrow going out in such a contentious way of its entire final season really being a build-up to Crisis, where the Green Arrow died in an episode of Supergirl, and then the episode following it was a backdoor pilot for a sequel series, and then we finally get, the actual resolution to the show in the finale after, Green Arrow died in a different show and we got a pilot episode. That's sort of the mess that this show always was, and I think the reason we love it is because it always tried. That it always tried to be great. And sometimes it was great. And sometimes it was so bad. So bad at times. But it was never out of laziness. It was never out of apathy. It was always out of just them not quite nailing it.
The bubble off a dead center.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what that would be. And then, of course, you could be dead center off the bubble.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you can never be on the bubble.
And it created some pretty great things. It created this entire universe that has since absorbed all other DC media, including the DC movies currently going on, because Ezra Miller's Flash appeared in an episode of Crisis. That was... Yeah. So, yeah, it created this universe. It created a way to unite all of DC's disparate media. I think Arrow is probably one of the most important properties that DC ever created. Even if it won't be remembered as the best, it will be remembered as one of the most important, because it created something that we've never really seen on TV. We've seen it in movies with Marvel, but it's unifying all these TV shows like this. The closest we came was, again, with the DC animated universe previously, but even then, it never hit this scale.
Yeah. I definitely agree with you there that it has that kind of significance, because before Arrow, I never really had much of an interest in DC shows. I mean, there was always Smallville, but I only watched like a handful of episodes, But when Arrow came out, I only got to see the first season, and I still need to watch more than that, But the first season was okay, but I didn't think anything big of it, But there was the fact that eventually there was Flash, and then there was a crossover between Flash and Arrow, and then there were so many other shows that started to build up, and they all tied around this one show, which I kind of think is interesting, because it's one of the few DC universes where the central character that started it all wasn't Superman or something like that, because it's usually the thing where it's it all started with Superman, but this time it started with Green Arrow, a character that's usually overlooked in most Justice League things.
And I will be honest that the character of Oliver Queen on Arrow wasn't really Green Arrow, it was Batman. And
of course.
I think we need to acknowledge that this was really a Batman show with a Green Arrow skin. But
when he started to do the gruffy voice, it's
But it was still... It still tried. And I think not enough TV shows try anymore.
It's true.
That is the truth. But honestly,
I could come up with more, succinct thoughts on Crisis and Arrow, but I don't know. It's hard to condense 8 years of this roller coaster of emotions that was this show and the build up to this crossover into, 5 minutes that we have before we have to end the show?
Yeah.
Oh, one thing that we could point out is that you said another Justice League member was mentioned at the end of Arrow.
Yes, they finally had Green Lantern on the show. Now, in the comics, Oliver Queen, Green Arrow, is best friends with Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern. And we had something similar to that in a way. In the show, his best friend is John Diggle, who many people thought may have been an analog to John Stewart, another Green Lantern. And as the show went on, we got more confirmation of that. A Flash from a different universe mistook him for John Stewart, and then we learned that his grandfather's last name was in fact Stewart, so he could have potentially been, instead of John Diggle, he could have been John Stewart. And then finally, at the very end of the show, we have him moving to Metropolis, and as he's packing up the van, a meteor hits next to it, throwing him into it. And when he goes down into it, he finds a box. So when we open it, and it flashes a green light across his face. Now, of course, this is not absolute confirmation, but given the fact that he's moving to Metropolis, and given the fact that we're getting a Lois and Clark TV show in the next season of the Arrowverse, which presumably is in Metropolis, unless they decide to go Smallville with it. But I'm thinking we may be able to get Green Lantern in the future. It should also be noted that HBO Max is getting a Green Lantern series produced by the same man that produced pretty much everything in the Arrowverse, Greg Berlanti.
Nice.
Lovely.
That's interesting. Anyways, next topic.
I think we're actually out of time.
We're out of the time.
Okay, well, we have about 3
Goodbye.
minutes then. Let's at least talk about Warcraft 3.
Okay.
It's a
mess. Warcraft 3 Reforged launched. It's supposed to be a remastering remake of Warcraft 3. It has blatantly false marketing in that cutscenes that are shown in the marketing are much lower quality and in a different, like, in the marketing they're, all close up with cinematic camera angles and all that. In the game they're from the RTS isometric angle with text boxes. The new terms of service say that anything you create in the map editor for Warcraft 3 automatically belongs to Blizzard, which seems to be trying to combat Dota, which originally started as a Warcraft 3 map before spinning off into its own very, very lucrative franchise. Let's see, there are just a litany of bugs that prevented people from playing the campaign, the multiplayer, all this. People that try to get refunds are being denied, even if it violates consumer laws in places like Australia. And it looks like Blizzard may be banning people on the forums trying to help people get a refund.
Did you know that laser is an acronym?
I did.
You didn't know that?
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember what for, but I did remember it's an acronym.
Light amplified by stimulated emission of radiation.
That's LABSR.
What? Well, they
The by is ignored.
Yeah, well, I know it is, but it shouldn't be. There's a B in there.
It's just like the word.
It doesn't sound as cool as laser.
It's like the words of or in. Those
Why
are
did
usually
scientists
ignored.
cared about being cool?
Since we created lasers.
Yeah.
Nerds.
Okay.
Anyway, Warcraft 3 Reforged is a mess, but it is time to sign up for the show.
Yes,
Hopefully we'll be able to talk about Warcraft 3 Reforged further later on down the line.
Yes.
Again,
I feel like this is I feel like this is just the beginning of what's to come for Warcraft.
Oh, absolutely.
Anyways, we have reached the end of today's episode of the Phone Booth here on TVOSJ, the voice of San Joaquin and soon to be KBCC 89.5 FM over in Tracy, California. My name is Ed Heitman. Joining me as always are my good friends and co-hosts Brian Rodriguez
Goodbye.
and Parker Spurlin.
Take it easy, caballeros.
Be sure to tune in every Saturday and usually Sunday from 1 to 2 where we cover all things pop culture related. Anything from movies to video games to TV shows to comic books, you name it, and we will do our very best to cover it. Now, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, please have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful afternoon,